Now, the elimination method that I showed you on Friday, basically all we did was take the two equations, add them together, and something eliminated. However, that doesn't always work out that nice and neat. Sometimes we may have to add an extra step before we can use that elimination, which is what we're going to run in today. So if we take a look at number 14 over here, the system we're working with is 3x plus 2y equals 23, and 2x minus 8y equals 62. Now, right now, as it is, if I add those two equations, the x's will not eliminate, nor will the y's eliminate. So we're going to add one little bitty extra step, and it's right there in front of us. It says right here that we're going to multiply that first equation by a positive 4. We're going to multiply the first equation by 4, and you'll see why here in a second. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to take everything in the first equation, and we're just going to multiply it by 4. So 3x times 4 is going to give us a 12x. 2y times 4 is going to give us an 8y. And 23 times 4 is what? Put that in your calculator. 23 times 92. 92. Now again, why did we multiply the first equation by 4? Well, look what's going to happen now when I add these two equations together. When I add these two equations, 12x plus 2x is going to give me a 14x. An 8y plus a negative 8y is 0. We just eliminated the y values. So the whole reason behind multiplying the first equation by 4 was so that the y's would eliminate. Now we got an 8 in front of those y's, which is eliminating those y's. Let's go ahead and add up the 92 and the 62. 92 plus 62 is, put that in your calculator if you don't know, 92 plus 62 is 154. I'm solving for x, so the next thing I need to do is divide by 14. So 154 divided by 14 is going to be a what? 154 divided by 11. So the x value is 11. We're halfway done. We know what x is. X is 11. But now we need to turn around and figure out what y is. So we're going to take that 11, and we're going to substitute it back in for one of these x's. It's my choice. I can use the first equation or the second. I'm going to use the first equation just because it looks easier for me. So there's the first equation with 11 substituted in for x. Now I'm going to solve for the y. 3 times 11, that's 33. The next thing I'm going to do is subtract 33. So that's going to leave me with 2y equals 23 minus 33 is a negative 10. Divide by 2. And a negative 10 divided by 2 is going to be a negative 5. Therefore, we have both the x and the y value. Of course, we need to write it as an order pair. And that order pair is going to be 11, negative 5. So there's my solution to this system. So I had to add one little extra step, and that was to multiply the first equation by 4. That way the y's would eliminate. So you may have to add that extra step. All right, let's go to the next one here. We got 2 more examples that we're going to look at, starting with number 15 here. Just like number 14, right now, nothing's going to eliminate. So I need to multiply one of the equations by something. One of the equations by something. Well, if I want to get rid of these x's, I'm going to need the same number in front of the x. Right now I have a 3 here and a 1 here. So anybody got a suggestion on what I can multiply by? The bottom one by what? A negative 3. Let's try that out. Let's take the bottom equation. Let's multiply it with a negative 3. First equation, I'm not going to touch that. I'm just going to leave that one alone. There's the first equation. It's the bottom one that I'm multiplying by negative 3. So negative 3 times x is a negative 3x. A negative 3 times 5y is a negative 15y. And a negative 3 times 62, what's a negative 3 times 62? Negative what? Put it in your calculator, guys. 186. All right, let's see if that's going to work. We multiplied by negative 3. Are the x's going to eliminate if I add those two equations together? Absolutely. 3x plus a negative 3x is 0. We just eliminated the x's, which was the whole idea behind multiplying by negative 3. You got 2y plus a negative 15y. That's a negative 13y. 4 plus a negative 186. 4 plus a negative 186 would be a negative what? 182. All we got to do now is divide by negative 13. And a negative 182 divided by negative 13 is going to turn out to be a positive 14. We're halfway done. We know what the y value is. It's a positive 14. Now we're going to take that 14 and we're going to substitute it back in for one of these y's up here. The choice is mine. I can use the first equation or the second. As a matter of fact, I can even use this new equation that we came up with. Probably going to stay away from that one though because the numbers are a little bigger than I like working with. So I'm going to use one of the original equations. I'm going to use the first one. I'm going to take out y and replace it with 14. I'm using the first equation. I'm going to multiply 2 times 14, which is a 28. I'm going to subtract 28. 4 minus 28 is a negative 24. Divide by 3. Negative 24 divided by 3 is going to be a negative 8. So now you got both parts. All you got to do is write it as an ordered pair. So Samantha, how are we going to write that as an ordered pair? What number goes first? Which one? What goes first in the ordered pair? The x or the y? X. And what is the x? Negative 8 and 14. So make sure you write the answer like this. All right, so there's our answer, our solution to the system. Go on to number 16. Same idea. We're going to have to take one of the equations, multiply it by some number, so that we can eliminate either the x or the y. All right, so Alexander, help me out here. What are we going to multiply by? I'll give you a hint here. I want to try and get rid of the y values. And right now I've got a 2 in front of this y, and I've got an 8 in front of this one. Is there any way we can get those two to match up? Is there any way I can multiply this 2 by something so that I would end up with an 8 like this one down here? There you go. We're going to take this top equation, and we're going to multiply it by 4. Top equation multiplied by 4. So let's see here. 4 times 3x is going to give me 12x. 4 times a negative 2y is a negative 8y. 4. What's that? Well, that's a good question. We can multiply it by either a positive or a negative. Now, in this particular case, we're using a positive 4. Now, that is going to affect whether we add or subtract. So right now, I'm going to leave it as positive 4. But yes, I could have very easily used a negative. 4 times negative 10. 4 times negative 10 is a negative 4. Now remember, we're not doing anything to the second equation. It's going to stay exactly like it is. Second equation stays. Now I want you to notice something here. If I try and add those two equations together, a negative 8 plus a negative 8 is not going to be 0. Instead, it's going to be a negative 16. It's not going to eliminate it. So what I'm going to do instead is, instead of adding the two equations, I'm going to subtract the two equations. And I think this question came up on Friday. Am I always going to add? The answer is no. You may have to subtract depending on what eliminates those variables. All right, so let's go ahead and subtract everything. 12x minus 4x would be a what? 8x. A negative 8y minus a negative 8y is 0. That was the whole idea, getting rid of those y's. Negative 40 minus 8. Negative 40 minus 8 would be a negative 48. And, of course, to finish this off, we're going to divide by 8. So negative 48 divided by 8 is going to be a negative 6. So we have half of our answer. We know the x value is a negative 6. So we're going to take that negative 6 and we're going to plug it into one of these equations up here. I can use any one I want. I think I'll use the second one. I'm taking out the x, replacing it with a negative 6. And I'm going to solve for the y. So 4 times a negative 6 is going to give me a negative 24. Now I'm going to add 24 to both sides. So let's see here, 8 plus 24. 8 plus 24 would be a what? 32. And finally we can divide by negative 8. So 32 divided by negative 8 would be a negative what? 4. Negative 4. So there's the other half of our answer. So the order pair we're going to end up with is negative 6, negative 4. There's our solution. So this is still elimination method. One little extra step, and that's to multiply one of the equations by